Good morning and happy Wednesday from the Environmental Learning Centers of Connecticut. Thanks for joining us again here on our Facebook page for Facebook Live, looking at some sights and sounds around the Indian Rock Nature Preserve. We are right here next to the Indian Lake. And today we're going to do a little spot right off the lake road. We have a few wildflowers growing. So we're going to take a look at a wildflower that's in the orchid family, the pink lady slipper. It's really large and kind of showy, but it's a wildflower occurring in Connecticut. It's a native flower, part of the orchid family. So let's start by talking a little bit about how we identify this flower as the pink lady slipper orchid. So if we zoom out a little bit, this flower is a little over a foot tall, maybe about 15 inches tall. Okay, it's got this nice pink, veiny, oh, we have some birds arguing in the background. Pink veiny flower, a long stem, two leaves coming out from the bottom. So we'll talk about what those are called first. So when we have two leaves, okay, two leaves, they're a little hairy. The stem is a little hairy too. Coming out from the bottom of the stem, those are basal leaves, the lowest coming out from the lowest part of the stem. The stem itself has these nice fine hairs on them. Let's see if the camera will focus on it instead of the leaves in the background. We've got this long stem, okay, until we get to the flower up top. So the flower blooms from a leafless stalk. The leaves at the bottom, they're this nice oblong shape, pointed at the end. A nice green color, a little silvery underneath. The leaves looking about 8 inches long, maybe 3-4 inches wide at its widest. Okay, and our flower up top, this is called a pink lady slipper. So it's got kind of a slipper lip. About 2 inches long. And they can range in color a little bit from very light pink to a deep rose, with those darker red violet veins. Now with the camera focus, we can kind of see the hairs on it. And this is a flower that is pollinated by bees. Okay, so we're going to have native bees coming around to this plant. And on the flower, let's see if we can, right in the middle, there's a little slit. So that's where the bees are going to enter. And the bees are going to enter the flower. They're going to be forced through an exit. There's only one exit on the opposite side of this flower up top. They're going to be forced through that exit. That's where they get the pollen all over their little body. And also drop off pollen, so that's how this flower is fertilized. So then once that is fertilized, the capsule that ripens in there, the tiny fruit, is going to go from green to tan or brown, and it contains thousands of little seeds that will be then dispersed by the wind. But this pink lady slipper is a little stubborn plant because we kind of need some other factors for this plant to start to grow. So when we think of a plant, some simple things you need to grow, you need water, soil, sunlight. Okay, for this plant to start to grow, for the seed to even start to grow, we need a symbiosis process. So symbiosis, you might recognize that word from your biology class. And this is typical for most orchid species. Symbiosis is when an organism, and this can happen for plants or animals, they work together to survive. So in this case, a fungus is going to be found in the soil, and it's needed for this plant to grow and thrive. So the fungus breaks open the lady slipper seed and attaches to it, and that allows the seed to start to absorb nutrition from the soil. And then once it kind of establishes itself and the plant is able to produce its own nutrients, the fungus will extract nutrients from the orchid roots. So symbiosis, the organisms are helping each other out. Okay, they work together. And then once this plant is established, they are perennial, so they will come up year to year. And they will live for many years if they're left undisturbed. But the key word there is undisturbed. They're not so great at rejuvenating itself. So they're kind of, we would say, an off-limit plant to pickers and diggers. They have a very low transplant success rate. Some research that has been done on this, scientists have found that it's a success rate around 5%. So it's generally discouraged to pick this plant because it's not going to come back. We have a comment from Allison saying she can never keep straight annual / or perennials. So think of it, an annual plant you have to replant annually. Each year you have to replant it. It is not going to come back. Perennial will come back on their own. You might have to manage it, maybe prune it, fertilize it, but it should come up year to year if all goes well. So this is an orchid that typically does grow in groups. Right now I see a singleton right next to me. We're on a little bit of a hill. There is an orchid just beyond there. I can see if I can zoom in on it. Not so close, but still there. We might have another one continuing up the hill that I haven't spotted yet. But typically they do grow in groups. So this wildflower is, since we mentioned it's a perennial, it's coming back year after year, this is a orchid, our native wildflower, that has been coming back year after year after year. So they are coming up between May and June, so now we're in late May, heading into June, so this is the perfect time for them to come up right on time. But we'll go over once more just to review how to identify this pink lady slipper, a native wildflower that's in the orchid family. So if you see a wildflower, that has 2 basal leaves. Leaves coming down at the bottom of the stem. These leaves are a nice green color, oblong, pointed tips, a little fuzzy looking. If you've got a long, hairy stem that's about a foot in length, maybe a little more, with a single flower up top, okay, you're going to be looking at a pink lady slipper. Again, these flowers are pollinated by bees going into the flower. There's a 1 entrance, 1 exit. So as the bees go through the flower looking for nectar, they're kind of forced to get the pollen by the wind. And it takes a symbiosis relationship to survive. So the seed is broken open by a fungus found in the soil that allows the seed to start absorbing nutrients. And once that plant establishes itself, then the fungus is going to start to take nutrients from the orchid roots. So that's going to conclude our little spot on the pink lady slipper, one of our native orchids here in Connecticut. If you're finding wildflowers out in your local open space, or even when you visit the Barnes Nature Center trails, which are open 7 days a week, sunrise to sunset, we'd love to see pictures of flowers you are finding, or of anything that you're finding. And of course, if you have any questions about what you're finding, you can always send a picture to our Facebook page, the Environmental Learning Centers of Connecticut, and we'll be sure to check it out for you. We're going to be back tomorrow on our Facebook page at 10 a.m. for another environmental topic, looking at the sights and sounds on the Indian Rock Nature Preserve. As always, if you have an environmental topic that you're really interested in that you would like us to cover, you can comment below on this video or message our Facebook page, and we'll be sure to cover it for you. But thanks for tuning in this morning to learn a little bit about the pink lady slipper, a native wildflower here in Connecticut. And we hope you'll join us again tomorrow at 10 a.m. on the Environmental Learning Centers of Connecticut Facebook page.